shapeless, like water. Now you put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. You put it in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Be water, my friend.
It's July 20th, 1973, Hong Kong. In a modest apartment, a man stands at the pinnacle of his life, 32 years old, chiseled like a statue, his every move a symphony of power and precision. This is Bruce Lee, the martial arts icon who's just finished filming Enter the Dragon, a movie poised to catapult him to become the first Asian star to conquer Hollywood. He's unstoppable, a living legend, the dragon incarnate. But that night, something unthinkable happens. Bruce Lee collapses, motionless, silent, gone. The world wakes up to a headline that hits like a thunderclap. Bruce Lee is dead. Now hold on. The official explanation sounds simple enough. A headache, a painkiller, a fatal reaction. Case closed. But this is Bruce Lee we're talking about. A man whose life was anything but ordinary. Almost instantly, the whispers begin. Was it murder? A curse? The CIA? A jealous lover? 50 years later, the mystery of Bruce Lee's death remains unsolved, a puzzle that continues to captivate and haunt us. In this video, we're peeling back the layers of Bruce Lee's final hours, exploring the facts, the wild theories, and the haunting questions that keep his death alive in our minds. So buckle up, hit that subscribe button, and let's plunge into a story as electrifying as the man himself. Because the death of Bruce Lee is a puzzle that just won't die. Chapter 1. The Making of a Legend. To understand the end, we've got to rewind to the beginning. Bruce Lee was born on November 27, 1940, in San Francisco's Chinatown. His father, 𝐷𝐻𝐿, was a renowned Cantonese opera singer, while his mother, Grace Ho, was of Eurasian heritage. They named him Lee Junfan, but fate had bigger plans than a quiet life in California. Just months after his birth, his family returned to Hong Kong, a bustling city of neon lights and narrow alleys. As a toddler, he was already on screen, a baby in his father's films, but the streets were where he truly grew up. By his teens, he was scrappy, restless, getting into fights with local toughs. At 13, he found his calling under the wing of Ip Man, a grandmaster of Wing Chun. His hands moved like lightning. His feet danced with purpose. Bruce Lee was no ordinary kid. At 18, Bruce Lee set sail for America, arriving in Seattle with little more than $100 in his pocket and an unshakable determination to forge his own path. He enrolled at the University of Washington, where he studied philosophy and began teaching martial arts to support himself. It was during this time that he developed 𝐔𝐧𝐭𝐫𝐢𝐞𝐫, a revolutionary martial arts philosophy that rejected rigid traditions in favor of adaptability, fluidity, and freedom. His famous mantra, "Be water, my friend," encapsulated this ethos, a concept that would resonate far beyond his lifetime. Bruce Lee redefined the limits of human potential. With blinding speed, pinpoint precision, and an almost supernatural awareness of his body, he transformed martial arts into an art form. His two-finger push-ups, one-inch punches, and lightning-fast kicks weren't just feats of strength. They were expressions of a philosophy celebrating relentless self-mastery. He wasn't just a fighter. He was a visionary who made the impossible look effortless. Hollywood soon took notice, and in 1966, Lee landed the role of Kato in The Green Hornet. His electrifying screen presence and unparalleled martial arts skills made him a standout, yet the industry confined him to stereotypical roles: sidekick, servant, never the leading man. Frustrated by the limitations imposed on him, Lee grew increasingly determined to break free from these constraints. His ambition and talent far outstripped the narrow vision of an industry unwilling to see him as more than a supporting player. In 1971, Bruce Lee returned to Hong Kong, signing a groundbreaking deal with Golden Harvest. What followed was nothing short of explosive. His first major film, The Big Boss, released that same year, shattered box office records. Theaters couldn't keep up with the overwhelming demand as audiences flocked to witness his electrifying screen presence. The next year, 1972, brought Fist of Fury, a powerful tale of resistance that cemented Lee's status as a cultural icon. But he wasn't done yet. That same year, Lee wrote, directed, and starred in The Way of the Dragon, a film that showcased not only his martial arts mastery but also his creative vision. The movie's climactic fight scene, a legendary duel with Chuck Norris in Rome's Colosseum, remains one of the most iconic moments in cinematic history, still analyzed, celebrated, and revered to this day. By 1973, Lee was completing Enter the Dragon, a Hollywood co-production poised to catapult him to global superstardom and redefine the action genre. The world was at his feet until tragedy struck. Chapter 2: The Final Hours, July 20th, 1973. Let's zoom in on that fateful day. It's a scorcher in Hong Kong, the air thick with heat and possibility. Bruce Lee starts his morning at the Mandarin Hotel, meeting George Lazenby, the former James Bond actor. They're discussing Game of Death, Lee's next big project, and the vibe is electric. But there's a glitch. A headache gnaws at him, persistent, annoying. He shrugs it off, pops an 𝐔𝐧𝐭𝐫𝐢𝐞𝐫𝐢 tablet, a painkiller combining aspirin and a mild sedative that he'd used before, and keeps rolling. Afternoon fades into evening. Lee heads to the Kowloon apartment of Betty Ting Pei, a Taiwanese actress and colleague. They're deep in script talks, the future shimmering ahead. But that headache creeps back. Sharper now, a blade behind his eyes. He takes another 𝐔𝐧𝐭𝐫𝐢𝐞𝐫𝐢, lies down on Betty's bed and tells her he'll rest it off. Time slows, minutes stretch, then alarm bells. Betty nudges him, calls his name. Nothing. His chest is still, his face slack. Panic claws at her. She dials Raymond Chow, Lee's producer and close friend, who speeds over. They shake him, shout, but he's unreachable. An ambulance screams through the streets to Queen Elizabeth Hospital. Doctors swarm, defibrillators hum, needles pierce. But at 10:30 p.m., it's over. Bruce Lee is gone. The next morning, chaos erupts. With Lee's wife, Linda, and their 2 children in mind, Raymond Chow, desperate to dodge a scandal, crafts a story for the press. Bruce died peacefully at home, beside his family. It's a flimsy lie, and it crumbles fast. Within 72 hours, the truth spills out. He was at Betty's place. Hong Kong ignites. Tabloids churn out lurid tales of infidelity, drugs, and dark secrets. Fans flood the streets, some sobbing, others raging. Bomb threats rattle cinemas showing his films. The British colonial government, rattled by the uproar, orders an inquest. The dragon's death has unleashed a hurricane. The autopsy, conducted by Dr. Donald Tier, a renowned forensic expert flown in from London, reveals a critical clue. Bruce Lee's brain had swollen dramatically, a condition known as cerebral edema. Its weight had surged from 1,400 to 1,575 grams, a 12.5% increase. Dr. Tier points to 𝐔𝐧𝐭𝐫𝐢𝐞𝐫𝐢, the painkiller Lee had taken, as the likely culprit. Specifically, the 𝐴𝐵, a sedative in the medication, may have overwhelmed his system, triggering the fatal reaction. Traces of cannabis are found in his stomach, but Tier dismisses them as insignificant. The verdict? Death by misadventure. A tragic, freak accident. End of story. Or is it? Chapter 3: The Conspiracy Theories. Bruce Lee was no average man. At 32, he was a machine, 5'8" of lean muscle, capable of 2-finger push-ups and side kicks that snapped ribs. A painkiller felling him? Fans scoff, friends squint. The theories ignite, each one a spark in the dark. One of the first theories to emerge pointed to the Triads, Hong Kong's notorious underworld syndicates. Rumors suggested Lee had crossed them, perhaps by refusing to pay protection money or by cutting into their profits with his wildly successful films. Could a shadowy figure have slipped poison into his tea, settling a debt in silence? While it's a narrative straight out of a gangster movie, there's no concrete evidence to support it. Raymond Chow and others close to Lee dismissed the idea, and the autopsy found no traces of toxins in his system. Another theory takes a more global turn. Some speculated that Lee's immense influence, his charisma, his unapologetic celebration of Asian pride, posed a threat to Western powers. Fred Weintraub, a producer of Enter the Dragon, was rumored to have intelligence connections, fueling suspicions of a covert plot. Was Lee targeted to prevent him from becoming a global symbol of empowerment? While it's a compelling spy thriller twist, there's no evidence to back it up, just speculation and hearsay. Then there's Betty Ting Pei, the Taiwanese actress in whose apartment Lee collapsed. She became a focal point of tabloid speculation. Was she a grieving lover or something more sinister? Sensational stories painted her as a femme fatale, accusing her of jealousy or even involvement in a plot to end Lee's life. She vehemently denied these claims, and toxicology reports supported her innocence, finding no evidence of poison, only the painkillers Lee had taken. Still, the shadow of suspicion clings to her name, a whisper of scandal that refuses to fade even half a century later. Decades later, the tragic death of Bruce's son Brandon Lee reignited the whispers. At just 28, Brandon, poised to follow in his father's footsteps as a rising star, was killed on the set of The Crow when a prop gun, mistakenly loaded with a live round, fired during a scene. The bullet struck him in the abdomen, resulting in fatal injuries. The incident raised haunting questions. Who would use a live round on a film set? How could such a catastrophic oversight occur? The parallels between father and son were impossible to ignore, both dying young under unusual circumstances. For some, it pointed to a family curse. Was there a supernatural force at work, a hex on the Lee lineage? Others saw something more sinister. Could Brandon's death have been another attempt to extinguish the Lee legacy? A family seen as too powerful, too influential, too much of a threat to the status quo? Of course, not all theories drift into the realm of curses and mystery. Some focus squarely on what could have been happening inside Bruce's own body, more grounded possibilities like drugs. Bruce Lee was known to use cannabis, which, while legal in some circles, was taboo in others. Rumors swirled that he might have dabbled in harder substances, leading to an overdose. However, the autopsy found only trace amounts of cannabis in his system, and forensic expert Dr. Donald Thayer maintained that the 𝐔𝐬𝐿 tablet was the sole cause of his cerebral edema. Still, the drug-fueled atmosphere of the 1970s kept this theory alive in the public imagination. In 2022, a team of kidney specialists proposed a striking new hypothesis that Bruce Lee's fatal cerebral edema may have been caused by hyponatremia. Too much water, too little sodium, swelling the brain. Lee was obsessed with hydration, gulping gallons to stay razor sharp. That very obsession with hydration, paired with 𝐔𝐬𝐿𝐿𝐿's known effects on kidney function, could have overwhelmed his body's ability to maintain fluid balance. And boom, cerebral edema. The irony is unmistakable. Lee's own maxim, "Be water, my friend," might have been his undoing. It's unproven, but the irony sings. Although Lee was in peak physical condition, his intense training and dieting may have placed stress on his body. Some speculate that his unverified use of performance-enhancing substances or extreme dehydration techniques could have played a role. But this remains unverified. So, what's the real story? According to Matthew Polly's meticulously researched biography, Bruce Lee, A Life, the most plausible explanation aligns with the autopsy findings. Bruce Lee's death was the result of a tragic and unforeseen reaction to 𝐔𝐬𝐿𝐿, which triggered cerebral edema. The so-called cover-up was less a conspiracy and more an attempt by Raymond Chow to protect Linda Lee and her children from the media frenzy and salacious gossip that followed. Shannon Lee, Bruce's daughter, has consistently urged the public to focus on her father's legacy rather than the rumors. "It was an accident," she has said. "Let's honor his life, not the speculation." Yet, there's a haunting footnote to this narrative. On May 10, 1973, just 2 months before his death, Lee had collapsed under similar circumstances, suffering from the same severe headache and brain swelling. He recovered then, a warning ignored. When the same symptoms struck on July 20th, there was no second chance. Had that warning been taken seriously, this tragic and untimely end to a legend might have been prevented. Bruce Lee's flame, already blazing as a legend, could have burned even brighter, illuminating the world with a brilliance beyond imagination. In just a few short years, and with only 5 films, he achieved what others spend a lifetime striving for. Imagine how much more he could have accomplished if fate had granted him more time. Chapter 4. The Legacy, Eternal Fire. Bruce Lee's death did not extinguish his legacy, it ignited it. Just weeks after his passing, Enter the Dragon stormed into theaters, becoming a global phenomenon and grossing over $350 million. The film cemented Lee's status as a cultural icon. His words, his electrifying fight sequences, and his unmistakable charisma immortalized on screen. Even unfinished projects contributed to his lasting impact. At the time of his death, Lee had been working on Game of Death, a film that showcased his visionary approach to martial arts cinema. He had already shot several iconic scenes, including the legendary fight sequence in the yellow and black tracksuit, which would become one of the most recognizable images in pop culture. After his passing, the film was completed using a stand-in and body doubles, with rewrites to accommodate Lee's absence. Despite its fragmented production, Game of Death was released in 1978 and became a commercial success, further solidifying Lee's mythos and introducing new generations to his artistry. In the years that followed, Linda Lee shouldered the responsibility of raising their children, Shannon and Brandon, alone. The family faced another devastating blow in 1993 when Brandon, following in his father's footsteps as an actor, was tragically killed on the set of The Crow. Despite these heartbreaks, Shannon Lee has worked tirelessly to preserve her father's legacy, founding the Bruce Lee Foundation to promote his philosophies and ensure his impact continues to inspire future generations. Bruce Lee's spirit remains untamed, a force that transcends time. The dragon's flame burns as brightly as ever, a testament to a life lived with passion, purpose, and unyielding determination. So, what killed Bruce Lee? Accident, murder, curse? The evidence says misadventure, but the shadows whisper otherwise. Maybe that's fitting. A man who broke molds couldn't leave quietly. What's your take? Drop it in the comments, smash that like button if this hooked you, and subscribe for more mysteries. Bruce Lee said, "Immortality is living a life worth remembering." He nailed it, and we're still talking. The dragon's gone, but the mystery, it's here to stay.